Yeah, so asset is anyworld.com/basketball.fbx. It's right here. And you take that asset, pull it into Unity. Right. And now we're gonna take that and pull it into our scene. And we're gonna start cutting it up. Yep. Now, you just need to have a net. I had a net earlier. If we can find an even better one. Basketball. Let's see, that's perfect. Something like this. This one also has a ball, I think. Yeah, the ball's right here. Which one should we go for? This one's really nice. Yeah, let me see if this one works, and I'll tell you to download this one if this one's better. Oh, nope, this won't work. It's a 3DS file. 1 sec. Sorry about that. Oh, 3DS file. I might be able to convert it. Nice. It's right there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this one looks way better. We'll use this one instead. I'll just upload it to the same place. Export. I'm just going to overwrite that same file, same place. So just give me a sec. Put it right up. Oh. Yeah, so hit that link again. You could just delete that thing from Unity from earlier. Yes, you should get this once you downloaded it. So it's the same link, just anyworld.com/basketball.fbx. Delete the one that's already in there and just use this one. Everyone got that? All right. So before we get to like the basketball mechanics themselves, or like of shooting the hoop and stuff, what we are first going to do is just place it. So let me just check here real quick if this hoop is going to do what we want it to do. Yeah, I'll make another cylinder like collider in a bit, but first we're just going to do this. So since we're going to be doing this in AR, we should be using these generate planes. Remember those like blue planes kind of show up? So the idea would be that to place this hoop like in space, we first need to see a plane, and then we're going to like basically just place it on that plane. So it's typically going to be a floor plane. So if you click on this generate planes object right here, do you see it in the scene? You see over here on the right, there's a plane prefab. It's called debug plane prefab. So if you click that, it will then take you to the location of that object inside Unity. So I want you to pull out that prefab here into the scene. And when you pull it out, just make it 0, 0, 0. If the camera is being annoying, you could just move that whole camera parent a little bit out of there. So this is that object that basically has, you know, estimation for the floor and the tables and etc. So if I look inside here, so the debug plane prefab, inside it is a plane, and that plane already has like a box collider and some other stuff there. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're kind of going to debug it here inside Unity itself and try to place onto this blue thing based on like where we click or something like that. And then in the tablet version or in the phone version, that should happen like on the actual plane that's going to be spawned into the world. But if we get it to work in here by clicking on the plane and then placing it, then it should do the exact same thing once a plane actually shows up in our actual world. So here's how we're going to do that. So for now, we can kind of take this basketball court. You know, it's actually fine where it is right now, but I just want to kind of tweak its origin. So a lot of times when you're working with like Unity assets, as you can see, like we kind of hastily had to find a basketball court, for example, and it's different 3D artists arrange their scenes differently. So, you know, things might kind of, you know, look, its origin is all the way up here, for example. So if you're going to be spawning something, the transform position 0 would be like here, you know, which would which would not show up right. So the way to fix that is, first, what we're gonna do is here we're gonna check. Right here we see it says center. So that's like the origin of the 3D object. Remember how we did global and local? Change like whether you're moving in global or local. Well, center and pivot. So if you use pivot, pivot is the actual like starting point of the 3D object. So it would be like the floor or whatever like the 3D artist did it. Usually if you download some 3D models, you know, that pivot will be right under the feet. You know, you can see like if I put like a cube, its pivot is right in the middle of the cube. So that's the pivot right there. When you use the center pivot, it basically kind of ignores, you know, the actual pivot of the object, and it just takes the average of all the objects in it, and it just gets that middle point, basically. But the one we want to use is the actual pivot. So it seems like the pivot for this object is right in front of the basketball court, which is actually good because we actually want it to kind of, the hoop itself, we want it to kind of spawn right above where we want to click. So this is fine for now. So what I'm actually going to do is I want to move this basketball court a little bit away from my plane, just because I want to like kind of see when I actually place it, I want to see it actually move because it was kind of almost in the perfect place already. And then the other thing I want to do is inside this basketball object, I think I exported from Blender with a camera by accident. So you see this camera that's in here, you can just delete that. It's an extra camera. It's gonna say, do you want to break this prefab instance? You say continue, just do it. So all we're left with is the AR camera, which is the one that we want. So then what I want you to do is, let's see here. I want you to take this camera parent. Actually, it won't make a difference. It should be fine like this. But we need another debug camera to actually just kind of test, because if you see this ARKit camera that's currently in here, if I just press play, it gets that thing that you mentioned earlier. It's just green. So we can't really actually see what's going on in our scene. So we need another camera that we're going to temporarily use as our main camera. So what you can do is this camera parent, just disable it by just unchecking it over here. So this camera parent, just disable it on the right here in the inspector. And then we're going to make another camera by going to Game Object, 3D Object, and then, actually not even, just Game Object and then Camera. You see it right there. And then with that camera, right here where it says tag, you want to tag it as a main camera, just because we want to use it as our main camera for now. So you should have made a new camera and then tag it main camera. Got that? Now you're going to take this camera and you're going to move it so that you can see that plane. You're going to kind of move it, you're kind of going to rotate it. Make sure you look at it around from multiple different angles until you make sure that this blue plane is in view. And once it's in view like that, that's like our testing ground, basically, for now. When we have it set up like this, then we should be able to test that placement. And then later, when we're happy with how it's being placed, we'll disable this camera and we'll re-enable the AR camera for exporting and for testing, basically. Yep, let me know when you have that in view. Got that? All right. So now we're gonna kind of create a little script. So just go up to the top level assets, and we're gonna create a new script. We're gonna call it something like placement or camera placement or whatever you want. I think camera placement will be more accurate. So we're gonna double click our script. And then what we're gonna do is in the top part of the script above the void start, we're gonna basically follow the same logic that we did for the follow object. So we need to like tell Unity which object we want to place, basically. But instead of doing a follow, we're just gonna make it basically get placed somewhere. So we're gonna do public transform and then call it something like object to place or something like that. Like which object are we going to be placing? We got to reference it. All right. So now here's the part where we're going to be using the internet to just grab a quick little code snippet. So if you go over to Google, you're going to type in raycast hit. So I Google this all the time to pull up the script reference for the raycasting because it's a little bit like it's a couple lines there that I just like don't always remember by heart. But good thing is the script reference is always available to just copy and paste that part. So it's this first result, raycast hit, and we specifically in here want point we want the hit point. So once you're in here, you just Google raycast hit, and then raycast hit point will give us the code that we want. Y'all found that?
Yep.
So it's this code snippet right here. So we're only going to pull what's inside update here. So from where this input get mouse button, we're going to grab this whole piece right here. Just this chunk right here. And we're going to take that and paste it into our update as well. Like that. We're going to delete some of this stuff from here because we don't need this poke force or any of this stuff, but you'll see what we're going to do with this. So what this script basically does is on mouse button down 0, which is the left mouse button, it will basically create this array. And array is basically just, think of it like a laser pointer. It just like starts at a point and then it just kind of shoots out. And this raycast hit is a type of object that we're actually going to use to detect what it hits. So as soon as that laser hits, once it reaches something, in this instance, our blue plane thing that we have, which has a collider, that raycast is going to hit that blue plane. It's going to tell us the X, Y, and Z of exactly where it hit. And that's what we're going to use to place this basketball hoop. So the only modifications here, so raycast hit is good. Ray is equal to camera main screen point to ray. Input mouse position. It's basically shooting the ray from a certain point of where your mouse is on the screen. So think of it like if you're shooting, I'll kind of show you here. So think of the mouse position here. You know, you're moving, and then you come here and you click. So it's going to shoot the laser exactly from here outward, and then it poop right there, or like from here, poop right there, and then that you'll get this exact X and Y position on this plane. Okay. And then you'll be able to just place that hoop just by moving its transform position to that point. So the reason why we're doing this, again, we're just kind of testing it with this, but we'll never really know in AR what our environment looks like or how many of these planes are going to be or if it's a table or a floor. We technically can't know that. It's the user's job to place the hoop on wherever they want in AR. That's kind of what they would do, basically. So here's how we're going to do it. So we're going to go in here into our script again. And the only thing that we're going to change here, so this is all good. If physics raycast, ray out hit. So the only thing you're going to delete is this chunk right here. If hit rigid body, add force. We don't want any of that. So that's just the example code. You can just get rid of these two lines right here. And then this if physics raycast, this if statement, we actually want a curly bracket opened right here. Make a few lines and then close the curly bracket because we might want to do a couple of things in here. So we want this to encompass a bunch of things here. So after every if statement, you can always open a curly bracket and close one. And then everything that happens in here only will happen if this is true. So what we're going to do here is basically our object to place. So we're going to do object to place dot position is equal to hit dot point. Now let me test this. So the first thing I'm going to do is just drag that camera placement script onto my camera. And now I see object to place right here is none. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the basketball object into that object to place slot on the camera script. And I'm just going to test this real quick. There it is, see? Now, our rotations aren't being set, but you can see that the position, even though it's a little bit like behind, but that's kind of where the hoop is. See that? But wherever I kind of click on the plane, this basketball hoop is going to get placed. Now, we also want to control the rotation of the basketball hoop, so we want it to always be facing the user, which is in this instance will be the camera. So I'm going to come around and make sure everyone's got this. Yep, you drag it in, and then try to do the placement. Did yours work? Did you try? You want this play? And I'll try to click somewhere on the plane. Yep. So that should work. So in AR, if you would just tap on one of those blue planes, it would be placed on top of there. Good.
So this is, like you said, it's a little further back because where I'm clicking is where the hoop
Exactly.
is. Okay.
Yep. So now the other thing that's important is again the rotation. You both have like a perfectly set up project where the hoop really like kind of shows up in front, but you can see what mine looks like. And since I'm kind of looking at it from the side or something, see, mine kind of comes in down the side, which wouldn't work for my instance. Or in that matter, like on mobile or something, you really never know which direction someone's going to be touching that plane from.
Right.
You have no idea. You have to assume the worst, that it's always going to be wrong. So the only thing that we're going to have to do is to rotate this hoop to just face the camera right when it's placed. And that will basically give us our desired result. So here's how we do that. So we're going to do, so object to place dot position is equal to hit point. And then right after that, you can do object to place dot look at open parentheses camera dot main dot transform dot position. Now this isn't perfect yet because it's actually going to look at not only towards me, but if I'm below, it'll face me below. If I'm above, it'll like look at me like above style. So let me show you what I mean by that. So there's still like one more line that we have to add here. But since it's literally the object will be looking at the camera, you can see that? You get it?
Yeah.
So it's literally looking at the camera, like exactly at it. So we don't need it to look exactly at us. So our X rotation should probably be always 0. You see that? So if it's looking at us, and then we just zero out, we just make the X 0, then we'll get what we want. So to look at us, but then not to like, not to like face like all weird like that, up and down.
Right.
And you can always check which direction it is just by looking at it. See the red? And that's X. See? So then we know that the X of the rotation should be zeroed out. So the way that you do that is, so after the look at, you do, so this one's a little bit of a mouthful, so it's object to place dot rotate dot local rotation dot set. Why isn't this one working anymore? It's deprecated. keep deprecating some of this code. It's the best way to do rotation now. Local rotation. I guess this is the way to do it. So just do it like this. So just objects to place, dot local rotation, dot Euler angles. So I'll explain this real quick. So Euler angles are basically just the x, y, and z of rotation. Rotation itself is a little bit of a more complex thing. These quaternions, they use 4 values. It's not actually supposed to be human readable, but the human changeable rotations are always like x, y, and z rotations, just like you have in Unity. So what we should do here is basically just set the same values back to itself. So it should be equal to mu vector 3. And remember, the x was 0, so the first mu vector 3 is 0. And then the second ones should be just this copied and pasted. So the whole objects to place local rotation Euler angles dot y. And then another one. Oops. Let's just do. I did not build. Oops. Ignore my errors. I wanted to do Command V and I did Command B by accident and it just built. Oops. I know, and then it gave me an error. I can build again. There you go. What's wrong now? Cannot. Oh, oops. Sorry. So one more thing we gotta do here. That's why I wanted to see if there's an easier way to do this. Sorry, just give me a minute. I know there's an easier way to do this. Local rotation. Oh yeah, so instead of dot Euler angles equals to mu, you should just do dot Euler angles dot set. So no new, no vector 3, just dot set and then open parentheses. And then just type in basically 0 for the x, the same thing for the y, and the same thing for the z that it already is. We're just plugging in its own rotation back into itself, but just making sure that the x is 0. Yeah, so that basically will give us the intended result.
So the reason why it was off is because when you say the look at,
it literally looks at.
It'll be like as if you had a face, right, that we're looking at you. So
that's what the look at is kind of made for. It's literally, it doesn't know. It will just look at like whatever it is, like you said, if it's a face, or if it's an enemy, or like a rocket, or something like that. It needs to literally look at. So if you tell it look at this, it'll like it'll really look at it. So we want that, but then we also want to make that x 0, and then it's just this kind of look at, which is what the basketball hoop should do. And that should work now. So if we just try this. For you all, it should be the same, but maybe when you hit it a little bit off the side, you should see that even if you hit it off the side, it'll still always be facing you.
I don't think I look at it. It looks like it's tilting up.
It is. Let me see here. Oh, oops, sorry. We forgot to set it back, I think. Wait. Huh. Wait a second. What am I doing wrong here? Huh. Try. Should be the X. see here. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's being buggy. Maybe we might have to make the z 0 too. I have a feeling it's probably that. Yeah. No, it seems to not even be running that function at all. Try to do it this old way that I like to do it. Euler angles equals to mu vector 3. I don't know why that set function isn't working. Temporary rotation is equal to local rotation, temp rotation dot Euler angles is equal to mu vector 3 0 0 0. Might have to do it like that raw way where you store it in temporary, change it, then set it back. And then local rotation is equal to temp rotation. Let me see if that works. Okay, yeah, that's gonna work. So it should be like this. It should be, you should make a type of quaternion, which is that like non-human readable rotation. Because if you don't do it like this, it will say you cannot modify like a quaternion. Consider storing into a temporary variable. That's the error it gives you unless you do it like this. So you do a type of quaternion, temp rotation is equal to object to place local rotation, and then temp rotation dot Euler angles should be equal to temp rotation, so 0, and then temp rotation dot Euler angles dot y, comma temp rotation dot Euler angles dot z, and then object to place local rotation is equal to temp rotation. By temp rotation, I mean temporary, like rotation, or I'm gonna test that. Should work. If it doesn't, I'll be really confused. The other way should have worked too. I don't know why that's set. It's as if we weren't even setting anything. Yeah, here we go. Works. Works like a charm. So let me know if that works for y'all. Oh yeah, sorry. Does it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Let me see.
it's not like, I feel like it was louder.
It's just an illusion. It's good. Looks to me like it's good. But I think it's good. Try it again. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you know, sometimes it's when you look at it from far away like that, you can't really tell. So one last step that we have to do, and it has nothing to do with this temp rotation stuff. It's something else. So the way that we're gonna set up this scene is this basketball. Since we're not really creating it in runtime, it's already in the scene. We're just moving it. So in theory, if you just started this app, this basketball would already be somewhere in the Unity scene, just like our AR portal was. So it would just be kind of somewhere. Maybe like, wherever you started, you'll kind of see it somewhere. And one way is like you can just, you can do that. You could like,
Send money back.
that would work, But what we're actually gonna do is we're just gonna disable it in code. Disable it here, and then enable it in code when we need it. So just go ahead and just disable the basketball object just by clicking in and then in the inspector. I'm still in play mode. Make sure you do that when you're not in play mode. So basketball, disable it, and then in code, write, you could do it after this or before it. It doesn't really matter, but you can either do it after. Because it all happens like in an instant. So all the positioning and rotation stuff, it doesn't matter if you unhide it after the positioning or before it. So you can just do object to place dot game object dot enabled dot set active true, like this. So object to place dot game object dot set active and then true. And that should be it. So the AR scene will look clean when you start it. It'll be empty completely. You'll scan around a little bit. You'll get your plane, tap it, and it should pop in. I believe that in the newer versions of Unity, yeah, there it is. In the newer versions of Unity, the code that we have here for mouse input and get mouse button down translates to touch in the recent versions of Unity. You used to have to have a specific word and you'd have to say if get touch down. But I believe that it just translates right now. But let me test that out first, and then if it does do that, as far as I remember it does, then we shouldn't have to modify it any more than this. The last thing that I have to do before exporting is I should disable this debug camera, and I can actually name it debug camera just so I know. That's for testing. And I can delete this blue plane, don't need it anymore, because you're going to be making those with the generate planes. It's going to be making those planes just from the camera. We don't need it anymore there. We just did that for testing. So I'm going to disable my debug camera, and I'm going to enable my camera parent again, the old camera from ARKit. And then I'm going to take that camera placement script and put it on the main camera of the ARKit. And then the objects to place, same thing. I'm just going to drag the basketball in there.
Sorry, I missed that last part.
Yeah,
Camera
yeah, just go in there, open it, go to main camera, pull the script that we just wrote on it, and then pull the basketball. So you have to
on this.
you didn't kind of drag it on it. You can also add component down there. Scroll down. Yeah, just do camera placement. Just type camera placement. And then scroll down, and then drag your basketball that's not disabled into that object you place.
This basketball.
Yeah, the one that's disabled. Drag it into. Yeah, so it's the one that's in the scene. Yep. Drag that there. Save. Just make sure that debug camera is disabled. Let me test this first. Make sure it works. Grab the cable down and fold. So the process of exporting is going to be exactly the same as before. The only thing that you have to do is when you're going to build settings, you have to go down and disable this AR doorway scene, because otherwise it'll still build that scene, and just do add open scenes to add the new scene that we just made, the AR basketball scene. And then I'm gonna build. So build, and I'm gonna rename this to AR basketball. Save.
So, how do you, if you needed to make adjustments in and you save it and you build again, does it build and replace entirely your Xcode project?
Only if you replace literally like the same folder name.
Right. You can't just like incrementally.
No, it'll replace the whole thing.
Replaces the whole thing, and when you open up in Xcode, it's just going to treat it as
Yep.
another project.
Yep.
You have to name it again, and you have to.
Well, you can name it inside Unity so that you don't have to keep doing it in Xcode.
And is that name that we put?
Yeah.
In the title. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You can name that in the player settings. All right. So Xcode. You just do, on there, basket. Put your name or company name. .air basketball. Select your team. Your personal team. And run. Oh, you gotta. Did you select your device up here on the top left? Yeah, that's probably what it is. Alright. Okay, so I am going to screen share this. Okay. And basketball. There it is. There it is.
Ah. Oh, cool.
Then I can, put it here. Here.
You tap it. And you tap it.
Yeah. Here. It's kind of big here. So I think it should be like maybe 1.5 times bigger. It's a little,
It's a little low.
yeah,
So
see that?
preschool.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll work for any of these planes. And then you can put it on that plane as well. You can put it up here.
There you go. It's a tabletop version.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it would make more sense like for this small one if it was say tabletop version. Yeah, that's the basic gist of it. The last thing I want to kind of do is just add a ball and just kind of apply some of the physics that we were doing earlier to actually try to shoot some hoops.
I'm getting this. It says Ben's iPhone is busy preparing debugger support.
Unlock it, and it's if it
Because it did that reinstall.
it does that when it updates apps. Like scroll through your phone and see if any apps are updating and stuff. If they are, then you have to wait till all of them are done updating. Are there any like updating? Like the circle on them? I've usually had that problem too, like busy. So you kind of got to give it like some real good like looks of the floor. Yeah, it closes it if you just built it from the thing. Does it work?
It's like making a really big thing like in the air.
But it's on the floor, right? And you can walk up to it.
And you can walk up to it, it's just like not on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, go closer to the floor and see if it is. Like if you kind of like kneel down, you should be able to see that it is kind of on the floorish.
Wait, what did I do? It's like both.
That's just ARKit. Sometimes it does that.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, the floor. You're right. The floor might not be on the floor exactly.
Yeah, it's like here.
Yeah, maybe try like restarting it and just try this one. Yeah, that's the thing with the ARKit. It's very new. I mean, the floor detection and all that stuff is only gonna get better. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be the same exact concept. Like you're gonna debug on your own with like the fake one
Mhm.
and make sure that it works in every instance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it will work like that in the real world, like placement. But that's how blip placement works. It's all with that ray casting. So kind of shoot that laser,
That's cool.
and then like
you can
the
target
text.
something, yeah.
Yep.
Is that what they use for the example with the ball?
Yep.
Balls and with the Android, they're using that same.
Exact same thing. You could look into their code and see that they're doing the ray cast and hit point.
Got
So-
it on the floor over there.
Nice. And you can walk up to it, right? Yeah, that's the goal. Like you didn't. This stuff wasn't like possible before. So I'm gonna pause this.